Well, beautiful people of planet Earth and all other interdimensional entities. Here we are at Sacred Space, Titania's realm, and it's a scathing hot day. It's 28 degrees. It shouldn't be that hot, but must have high humidity. Anyway, I've been a very good mama tea. I've just brought the boys in with me into my front lounge. Just the first time I've let them in here because I've got all my, valuable trinkets in here. But we're in here for the air conditioner, which was gifted to me by a beautiful friend. I tell you what, this air conditioner was the best gift anyone ever gave me. Better even than my diamond engagement ring, which back in the day cost around about the same amount. It's given me such relief in this dreadful hot climate for the last 5 years, and I'm very grateful for it. Really, truly am grateful. And as I say, it's worth more than diamonds and opals and you name it. The birds are a bit. Where's little bow? Let me just check on the eyes down the bottom of this couch. The birds are a little bit confused and freaked out because they've never been in my front living room before. Kermie has flown in here on a couple of occasions, but I've never brought their actual cage in here. Can you see them? Here he is. Kermie, what's going on, mate? He says, I don't know, but it's much more lovely and cooler in here now than it was in our room. I'm very worried, but in a way it's good that they get along now and that they can sit in the same cage side by side like they're doing now, because it means, in really hot days I can bring them in here and they can be in here with me, and we can be living in the luxury of the air conditioning and not slumming it in their back room with just the fan, which is much noisier and not really having much effect, by the way. Scary times with the increasing heat, and Brisbane, Australia being an incredibly hot place at the best of times. So I've been a very good mother. I've cleaned both their cages this morning. I cleaned my fish pond filter just before. Did a little bit of dusting in here because I washed down my air conditioner. So this is the only room that's fully dusted at the moment. Dusting's not a thing that I like to do. It's I find it boring and a thankless task because, you dust it and a week later you've got to go in and do it again. But, wow, I was not put on this earth to be a housefrau, a domestic goddess. I'm a warrior goddess and an artistic type and creative. And creatives are known for being a bit not too crash hot about caring too much about housework. I guess some are. Depends on people's personalities. But anyway, the boys have got scrupulously cleaned cages. And, little Bo's stretching his little wings and realise that it's cooler in here. You happy now, little Bo? Just don't fly into my very good German crystal. That's all I ask of you. Just maybe I should shut them in. Yes, I might shut them in because they get adventurous. Otherwise, I know. I don't want to fly and one of my beautiful crystal plates I inherited from my mother has a chip on it because a former friend had a very feral granddaughter that used to go in and touch everything and smack into everything, put a chip in it. I want to kill that kid to this day for that alone. Not really. I didn't even get all that angry with her because she's a child and they don't know any different. But, the grandmother knew better. It was just feral how it was treated. Anyway, that plate still exists even though it has a little chip in it, and it's a reminder to not let peasants near my good stuff, including my vagine people. Don't get broken by peasants. Oh dear goddess, that's a joke actually, but somehow hilariously funny. Don't let the oafish ones get near you, especially the ones that behave like Gaston in, what was that cartoon called? Gaston and Beauty and the Beast by Disney. Oh, you have to laugh. Anyway, Mama T's cooking on gas today. I can tell anything could come out of my mouth by all the gods. Anyway, you can't take life too seriously. You've got to just have a little bit of whimsy and a bit of Schwarzer gallows humour from time to time. On that note, I'm going to continue reading to you because we're comfortable and we're happy in here now. Aren't we, my gorgeous ones? My babies, my darlings, my sweethearts? Little Bose keeps looking around like, what is this? Right, and we'll continue reading we're up to chapter 6 of part 1. This book, I think, is separated into seven parts, I think I observed. Can't remember now. It's not in the contents list. Seven parts, yes, I'm correct. Right, so let us continue on with this fabulous story. The author also works as a barrister in Melbourne. Very well educated man indeed, very successful and thriving. All good things that I like to hear. Only because I'm not successful and I'm not thriving, and at this late stage of life I no longer care all that much. I whine about it, but I don't really care all that much. This life's been too traumatic and hard, I just can't be asked. Sweating the small stuff and all the things that were robbed of me, including a first-class education at Victoria University of Wellington because of their evil and rape threats and malfeasances while I functioned as secretary of the student union politic. Oh dear God, 1982. That's why I wouldn't involve myself in academia ever again. It was corrupt, it was evil, it was filthy, it was perverted, and it caused me to have a breakdown, caused me to drop out of university, caused me potential careers. So I could let it go after, what is it now? 43 years, 42 years. So I was 18 when I dropped out. Yeah, 42 years. I could let it go, but I won't. Memories, like the corners of my mind. Still got my memories, which is a good sign. If I can still bear a grudge against you and I still remember why, that's synapsing. Good cognition people are there. Worry when I potentially get demented and can't remember shit and become all mellow and sweet, docile and forgiving. That's when I shall worry, but I won't be worried because I won't be cognitively aware. Just a great worry. Gone round in circles there. You can tell it's hot when I go round in circles. Anyway, chapter 6 of part 1 of the 7 types of ambiguity. I won't ask how much you already know. I don't wish to deal here with the grievances you have against your husband, even the fundamental ones. He is by no means the worst of her clients. This might not surprise you. He is quite expansive. This might. You see, Angelique has no qualms about breaching your husband's confidence, and we learn quite a bit more about you from him than we ever could from simply following you. Of course, Simon did not always follow you. There was a time I have spoken of earlier, as a time of forgiveness. I have to roll my eyes at that one because I tried that once too. It's why I am the way I am today. Because forgiving psychopaths is a very naive and foolish thing to do. It gives them carte blanche to continue on with their rotten behaviours and their evil ways, and they damage you over and over again. The more you forgive them, the more you become enmeshed in their trap and a victim, and your life is utterly destroyed. Ask me how I know. On a happy note, I found a seller on Marketplace that is selling beautiful boulder opals. So I messaged this person. I don't know if they're male or female, but it makes no difference to me. And if they have any, cheap specimens or small specimens of raw boulder opal, because I said I will buy the occasional specimen. So I was honest. I said I don't have a lot of money and I'm a pensioner, but I want to buy the occasional specimen for my silversmithing skill sets. Anyway, they were quite lovely, replied straight away, said they'll send me some videos of what they've got for sale when they get home from work. And they live quite close by in Greenslope, so I'm hoping there's a piece that they might have that's within my budget for this fortnight at least. And then I'll just buy bit by bit occasionally as I can afford, because it takes me a fair while to polish up a piece anyway. Anyway, I'm kind of excited about that. I hope they have something that's suitable. If they don't, I'll just carry on with the little tiny White Creek opal chips, but I'm hoping to buy something a bit bigger, something a bit more substantial. But of course, you're looking at probably $400-500 for a bigger piece. But anyway, that person might have something in my price range that's not too improbable or impossible, and I might be able to turn it into something lovely. So I'm excited about that prospect. Like a child, people are there, like a child. Because, polishing up your own little gems, it's a very meditative process and can take, up to a week and a half. You've got to go through all the different grits. It takes time. It's very meditative. And then you have a lovely piece at the end of it to set into silver, or if one can afford it, set into gold. So, anyway, that's the aim. Now, I hear lots of scuffling and chewing. Why are you chewing the paper on the bottom of your cage when I gave you a toy full of paper to chew, you mad bird? Doesn't understand what it's for. That's why, you mad mummity. I know. It's a bit like that. The birdies know what they're doing. I just expecting them to understand the philosophy. No, darling, look here. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you what you do. See this? You go crunch, 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 crunchity, 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 crunch. There's even treats in there. Look, handsome boy. Are you paying attention? No. He's not paying attention. He doesn't give a flying birdie num fuck. But I'm trying to educate them that they have a special toy that I got for $2 with all the paper to go and bite at and gnaw at and rip apart, and I bites on the newspaper at the bottom of his cage. This will be the best toy ever. It's because I cleaned his cage, isn't it? He wants to make a mess, so I have to get in and clean it again. A little yellow-headed bastard. No, not really. He just wants to play. Because it's cooler in here, they feel a bit more safe. They've been sulking all morning. I didn't put them in the garden because it was just too humid and hot today. So they've been sulking about that. But you watch, they'll get all perked up now that it's cooler. I know I feel a bit perked up, can you tell? Yes. Right, I'm so glad I finally decided to get with the program and bring them in here, because suffering like an animal is not good. Really not good. Right, let's go back to the story. I'll go back to the beginning of the chapter. The beginning of that paragraph, sorry. Of course, Simon did not always follow you. There was a time I have spoken of earlier as a time of forgiveness. When Simon forgave himself for all that he was and all that had happened to him, forgiving yourself is a pretty good thing to do, I guess. Unless you're in denial about what kind of arsehole you are and you're forgiving the unforgivable in your own self. But we all do it, don't we? Lack of insight. Various personality disorders and pathologies. We all do it. I'm guilty of that too at times too. By the gods. But I have insight, so that's how I know I'm not actually crazy. Believe it or not. He was teaching and knew he was good at it. He felt good about himself. Although he tried to fight against it like most teachers and parents, Simon had his favourites. Simon's favourite one year was a little boy, small for his age and very quiet. Whenever Simon brought Empson to school, this little boy was always the last to come and play with him. His name was Carlo. He was shy, although not really disliked. He was too quiet to be popular with the other children, and Simon thought he could see the beginning of a life of pain for him. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt, by the gods. The quiet ones are quiet for a reason. School was a fucking torture for me, quite frankly, but then so was my home life, so there was no real escape anywhere, to be honest. I'm the happiest I have ever been now that I'm 60 years old than I was at 16, 6 or 26 or 36, 46. 56 I started to blossom slowly and come into my own, but it's been a long, slow process, people of Earth. A long, slow process. He, perhaps arrogantly, thought he could change this. Simon likes to rescue people whenever he himself is not in need of rescuing. Do you remember? Blessed be the ones who like to rescue people. I've been guilty of doing that too. To my detriment, the savagery and the viciousness instead of the gratitude and support and alignment. Been that to my detriment many, many times. Oh, it is what it is, people of Earth. I put a little video up of me lying on my bed. You can't see me, only maybe my feet. And the view of my bedroom wall and the end of my bed. And it's not sexual or anything, but it's of both singing this morning in the back room. I like to take a video, not of him, but of so you can hear the audio. Because if I go in and put the camera on and stop singing, so I laid on my bed and listened to him sing and shared it with YouTube. And anyway, that video is going viral. 447 views and 7 likes. It's only been up since 5 hours ago. Hilarious, isn't it? People really love to hear birds and see my bedroom, which kind of is very artistic if I say so myself. put a lot of work into decorating my bedroom. Well, I spend so much time in it in a death-like repose. I promised myself back in my early 30s that I would always have a nice bedroom because I can spend days languishing between life and death in my bed. A bit like Frida Kahlo, but without the terrible agonies she endured with, the injuries through her belly, through her back, and my agonies, usually of a spiritual and emotional, mental kind, not as severe as what Frida endured. Wasn't she an incredible woman to survive that dreadful injury? Be married to that dreadful, cheating, womanizing piece of shit, and all the miscarriages she had, and yet have this amazing gift of, painting the most incredible, poignantly painful at times to look at self-portraits of herself and of other things. I really admire her because I would not have had the strength or the courage or the fortitude to achieve what she achieved. And be a revolutionary. Like, I really admire Frida Kahlo. I really do. I don't know how she survived her life. I don't know how I survived mine, but mine wasn't, well, it's not true. I did have a lot of physical issues, medical issues, but not as detrimental as hers was. By the gods. What a woman. To you, Frida Kahlo. Apparently, according to the movie, she was bisexual as well, but I'm not gay, but I tell you, I would take her in my arms and I would dance with her and twirl her around like a little dolly because I really admire her. I really do. But she's dead now, of course, been dead many, many years. But there are some people on this planet that suffered such immense horror and yet shone so bright that they're never forgotten, not even now, decades after their death. When did she die? I'm not sure. Let's Google it. Let's Google. Born 6th of July 1907 and died 13th of July, not long after her birthday, a week, in 1954. Well, she was 47. Well, that'll be as a consequence of those terrible injuries that she struggled with all her life. Anyway, blessed be, gorgeous girl. Blessed be. Just looking at all the names of her siblings. Came from a large family. What happened to Frida Kahlo before she died? She had already undergone surgery for her spinal problems. In 1950, she had 7 operations and 2 toes on her right foot were amputated, dear goddess. During the last years of her life, she remained bedridden. She was impaled by that bus when she was only 18. So she fought hard to stay alive too, from 18 to 47. Well, anyway, Mama T has done well to survive all her familial predators and traitors and the false lovers that came and went over the years in that dreadful marriage. I've done very well indeed, and some days I'm just in awe that I'm actually 60 years old and I want to throw a wild party. It's time I had another one of my shenanigans parties where I've put on music and I've danced wildly here. I haven't been out dancing. It's one thing and another. I haven't been all that well. But I don't need to go out into the dance spaces and the music scene to have a good time. I can have a good time alone in my house, as I demonstrated by those 3 videos I put up of me dancing here on my own. Sometimes the most powerful thing a woman can do is to dance on your own, baby girls and baby boys. Anyway, where were we? So the very shy boy was one that Simon liked to think he was rescuing. If truth be known, that's a symbiosis, and the little boy was probably rescuing him too. Ask me how I know about that. Never mind. Carlo's shyness made it difficult for Simon to assess accurately his reading and comprehension skills. He wasn't sure whether Carlo's slow reading was a reflection of poor ability or of his fear of reading out loud. He wanted to know what could have made this little boy so afraid anyway. Jesus, doesn't take much imagination to figure that out, mate. Ask me how he thinks he's a successful teacher if he can't figure that out. Well, my teachers were also obfuscating their roles throughout my childhood too, referring to me as too quiet and doesn't contribute to class conversations and too detached and too shy and too strange. Fuck off, you animals. Seriously. Anyway, all they had to ask was the appropriate questions, and then they might have had to have taken action. They'd rather sell you out to the devils than take action, people of Earth. That's what was done to me, literally and figuratively, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and, by the way, financially. Monsters they were. But now I'm older and I'm going to buy my own records and have fun before I die and be supportive of my own self and grow and evolve and one day might even be successful at this ridiculously late stage of life. Right, where were we? Mum and tea's all over the place today. It's lovely and cool in here now, but it gets very cold very quickly, so I might have to turn it off. Can you see them fussing? They're so happy. Little boys, can you see him? In the corner over here. He's playing with his toy he never plays with. I moved it over so you can reach it from this little perch. You're very playful, my baby, now. You're no longer depressed like you were sitting in the other bedroom. It's all too depressing being in the heat, isn't it, Kenny? I know. Sweltering like dying mummies and dying birdies. Good boy. You want to come out and visit me? I don't know. I'm tempted, but I don't know. I've got all my good crystal up there. I don't want it broken. Right, where were we? He arranged for Carlo to stay back after school a couple of days a week. Simon would read to him children's stories and rhymes. Afterwards, Carlo would read back to him. Sometimes he even sang to him. Slowly, Carlo was improving. Simon noticed he was even slightly more extroverted with his peers during the day. Well, I must say that was very kind of him. Just give him extra attention and time and show him that he was a person of worth and deserved attention and time. Unfortunately, Carlo's story became public knowledge after this. You may not remember his name. Simon had always stayed in the classroom with him until his mother came to pick him up. Carlo's father worked nights and slept during the day. His mother worked in a clothing factory. There were other children in the family, but because of the private tuition Carlo got from Simon, they would leave earlier than Carlo and go home together. Carlo was the only one to be picked up by his mother after work. One day, Carlo's mother was working overtime. She instructed Carlo not to stay late with Simon that day, but to leave with the other children. It will always haunt Simon. Carlo didn't leave school with his brothers and sisters, but saying nothing about his mother's overtime, he stayed back as usual with Simon. When they had finished their reading, the two of them went to check on Empson. Carlo wanted to go to the toilet. After about 10 minutes, Carlo hadn't returned, and Simon thought the little boy might have had an accident and be too embarrassed to come back to the classroom. He gave it another 10 minutes or so before starting to look for him. The little boy was not in the toilets or with Empson. Simon could not find him anywhere in the schoolyard. He ran around calling for him, but the whole school was empty. It had never been so empty. As you probably know from the newspapers, he still hasn't been found. This was the beginning of Simon's decline. He was devastated by the little boy's disappearance. He felt responsible for it. If anything, and you mustn't take this the wrong way, he actually felt a certain relief when Carlo's abduction turned out to be the first of that series of child kidnappings in Melbourne. In addition to the trauma and a sense of guilt, Simon was briefly, you might remember, the subject of some pretty tacky tabloid publicity. The other teachers even began to regard him warily. It's understandable he'd be the first suspect, really, wouldn't it? Had opportunity and lots of time alone with the child. It's a horrendous thing to be falsely accused of being a pedophile serial killer, but it happens, people of Earth. So I kind of understand that people jump to that conclusion, perhaps unfairly. What had been initially regarded as admirable enthusiasm became an unhealthy pedagogic zeal. I found him very forthcoming about this whole period. It might have been at only our second or third session that he discussed it with me. I think he was rather hoping that it would be all that he had to tell me. What you doing, Kenny? Oh, he's got mandarin in his beak and he straddled a little bow with it. It was very important to him. I'm not denying that, but I think he was, in a way, glad he had it to tell me about. Have you ever expatiated on a particular experience to give a new acquaintance the impression of instant intimacy. It is not an uncommon form of flattery. I've done that a few times in my life. And I've had it used against me too. God, I hate other humans, people of Earth, by and large. Deceptive and destructive and vicious. Most of them are. But if you're on this channel and you're watching my videos and you've been here long enough, you understand why. We're in this together on planet Earth, those who have survived horrific child sexual abuse and domestic violence and systemic abuses and even the COVIDian draconian evils. We're in this together one way or another. We might not always be in the same part of the Venn diagram of survival of abuse, but by the sheer human condition, we're in this very much together. But I'm not so easily satisfied, and Simon is not so easily intimate. Let me shut myself some lollies. Leave some lollies, people there. I should have done that with my too. When will I ever learn? Probably broken anyway. I'm going to denial. It was already cracked. Don't mind me. Cracked too. It'll be a toothless old hag one day. Right, little boys. That's good, I needed that. But I'm not so easily satisfied, and Simon is not so easily intimate. In addition to you and the disappearance of Carlo, he spoke quite readily about his father. It's fashionable. Simon rarely said anything much about May. One day, May, I might remind you, was his mother. One day, I told him that I wanted him to tell me about his mother. A little bit of water left in there. He said there wasn't all that much to say. What do you have to say about your mother? Good goodness. We were at his... We're still filming people there? Yes. We were at his place, which was not unusual during his housebound, curtain-drawn days, and I insisted that he speak about her for an hour before I would listen to anything else. It's amazing how he was able to get a private consulting psychiatrist to do home visits. In my worst times, when I was desperately ill, I had to drag my sorry ass to their offices. One time, I'm talking about back in my early 30s after my marriage breakdown. I was strangled and all the savagery that went with that. One time, I rang them up and I said, I'm simply too ill to come and see you, doctor. The secretary laughed her ass off. She said, what kind of person is too sick to see a doctor, said Ian. Frankly, I'd rather die than drag myself out right now. So we rescheduled the appointment, but she thought that was hilarious. She thought I was being melodramatic. Didn't realise that it was actually too much for me. Seriously, too bloody much. What is that person doing driving badly up and down the street? It's really some kid having driving lessons, am I right? Yes, probably. Well, I'll just repeat that line. We were at his place, which was not unusual during his housebound, curtain-drawn days, and I insisted that he speak about her for an hour before I would listen to anything else. Hour-long sessions as well. By the gods. Baby, baby, baby. I shouldn't laugh. Simon said I was being ridiculous and that I could leave immediately if that were the case. I ignored him and got us both another beer from the kitchen and started playing with Empson. I gave him his drink and sat down. Then Simon talked for 3 hours. This is actually kind of inappropriate to have that long a session in one go, I think. It's really favouring this man who is paying for it handsomely. Most sessions you're lucky if they go half an hour to 45 minutes. Dear goddess. Anyway, I didn't think it would work. My theatrics and feeble threats seldom work. I'm not much of a hypnotist either. It's got very, very poor boundaries, the psychiatrist. That's what I'm seeing from that. 3-hour sessions in a private consultancy in the patient's home while he refuses to put in the work is a boundary violation of sorts. As a child, Simon found what was happening to his mother very frightening. She could at one moment be very loving, gentle and caring, and then, seemingly quite suddenly, very angry, or she would completely shut herself off. She just wasn't available. She would go into her bedroom and stay there. Sometimes Simon would creep in and hide under the bed or in a wardrobe while she was asleep and just watch her, keeping his breathing as low as possible. She would not speak at these times. Her silences could go on for weeks. What happens to a child born to a mother who is depressed? Your kids grow up to fucking hate you. That's what happens. Because been there, done that, got the t-shirt. One woman in 4 becomes quite seriously depressed in the 12 months following the birth of a baby. But this went on well into Simon's childhood. His brothers always seemed to be outside breaking something, training for some event or else out camping. They were away. Simon was always there. He remembered, and it amazed him to remember, one summer afternoon in Sorrento with the Osbornes. William and May had been arguing fiercely. He didn't remember what it was about. The older boys were on the beach playing cricket. William had stormed out. Simon had earlier slunk away from the screaming to shelter in his parents' wardrobe. He had fallen asleep there and was awakened some time later by the sound of May's sobbing and heavy staccato breathing. He peeked through the crack in the door, and he saw her lying on the bed in her half-opened robe, her face and hair being caressed by Diane Osborne. Did he ever mention this to you? He is amazed that he could have forgotten this. He remembers not understanding, being very frightened, but not being able to take his eyes off his mother and Diane. There was, in that small space, the extreme austerity of an almost empty mind colliding with something sweetly frantic and wrong between the many breaths, and an indifference to what would happen when the breathing was quiet again. Subtle. After a while he could hear William coming down the passage. The women were with each other and didn't hear him coming. Simon didn't know what to do. He wasn't supposed to be there. He knew things were in some way wrong, but he was unable to speak. He didn't know exactly what was wrong. Wasn't everyone a friend? William pushed open the door and found the women together. He grabbed Diane by the hair, pulled her off the bed and hit them both, May in the mouth and Diane in the stomach, knocking her to the floor. Then he picked her up as though she was a piece of furniture, placed her back on top of his frightened wife, who had fallen back onto the bed, and madly exhorted them to continue. Simon saw all of this from the crack between the doors before he passed out and everything went black. As he fell to the floor, his body pushed open one of the wardrobe doors. He had always felt vaguely that somehow none of this would have happened had he not fallen asleep in the wardrobe. He wouldn't have seen it, and it would not have happened. He wasn't supposed to be there. It was never mentioned. Surely, he had thought, this was what you did with things that were never supposed to have happened. You don't mention them. Simon was crying when he finished telling me about his mother. Then he asked me another one of those questions I'm never sure I am supposed to be able to answer. What is it about men that makes women so lonely? Chapter 7. When a child feels in danger, it will defend itself, hold itself together, possibly withdraw. We do not spring fully grown into the world. We have to develop or create our own sense of self. When we have people around us who threaten us in various ways, perhaps by punishing us or leaving us, abandoning us, then our sense of self can seem to fall apart. That is the greatest, the most terrifying fear. We all experience it to some extent as small children, and we grow up trying to defend against this fear. Some of us have to work harder at it than others. Sure as shit do. Especially when it's been on repeat my entire life, up to and including recent months. Have to work very hard to survive all those monsters. And yet, here I am, surviving. It's incredible and amazing and magical and awesome and miraculous at times. I was so ill the previous few days. Actually, I put it in my video. I hope I die soon. I actually said that. That's how ill I was feeling. Wow, we all know. Mama T's not going anywhere. Being tortured on this planet. Kept here against my will most of the time. There goes that kid in that red car again trying to drive. Oh, God is bless. People won't talk about it, no, because they're cowards. They think they don't have to, and unless it persists, often they're right. Simon has tried on several occasions as an adult to reach May. He has done it as much for himself as for her. At least he tried, made the effort. And unlike my own progeny that don't give a flying fuck about me, it's awful beyond words. Well, when the whole business with Carlo happened, Simon went to her. What could she say? A child disappears. It is so obviously a tragedy for those involved. But she couldn't understand the full extent of Simon's involvement. It wasn't so much what she could have said as the fact of her saying it, saying anything. But she hardly said anything that showed even the thinnest empathy, and Simon felt rebuffed. Their relationship continued to consist of polite obligation, fulfillment. One Mother's Day, he included a poem by Robert Lowell with his traditional card. Not long before this, May had confided to him that, with all her sons grown and gone, she was sometimes quite lonely. She said nothing about her marriage or about William directly, but he felt she didn't have to. For Mother's Day, he copied out Lowell's To Speak of Woe That Is in Marriage and gave it to her. Not exactly subtle there, boy chick. Do you know it? The hot night makes us keep our bedroom windows open. Our magnolia blossoms. Life begins to happen. My hopped up husband drops his home disputes and hits the streets to cruise for prostitutes, freelancing out along the razor's edge. Sounds fucking familiar. Thank God he's not my husband. Baby girls and baby boys. This screwball might kill his wife, then take the pledge. Oh, the monotonous meanness of his lust. It's the injustice. He is so unjust. Whiskey blind, swaggering home at 5. My only thought is how to keep alive. What makes him tick each night now? I tie $10 and his car key to my thigh, gored by the climacteric of his want. He stalls above me like an elephant. I'm so glad and free of ourselves. Truly am. I did get my hopes up the last time, loving and kind and genuine, but I was wrong again. I'm just going to get some more water, people. What are you doing? What are you doing, handsome Mr. Boys? Are you liking the air conditioning? Mommy's just going to move the spinning wheel over here. Yes, Mommy's been spinning every night. Spinning, spinning, spinning. You want to come out and see Mama? You want to come out? No. Okay. I'll leave the door open and see what they do. I decided to not worry about the crystal china. One less thing for my kids to scrabble over when I'm dead, because they don't care about me. They don't really care about the things either, but they'll do it just because it's human nature. That's what people do. When you die, they scavenge like vermin over trinkets and behave like animals. And I've seen it too many times before, so I'm quite cynical about what happens when one dies. Of course, the parallels are very imperfect. The husband of the poem is almost as much one side of Simon as he is William. But Simon was hoping it might touch her in a way that could clear a new path for some kind of genuine dialogue or exchange. May never referred to it. It was a bit fucking psychopathic of him, quite frankly. Seriously, getting triggered by the stories. Too many parallels in my own life too. Anyway, he regretted giving her the poem, as well he should. He wondered how she could say nothing about it, even if it was just to say that the husband of the poem was not her husband at all. Simon would even have been heartened by some obvious and dutiful defence of William, some acknowledgement that William did not cruise the streets for prostitutes, that the lust of the poem's husband was not William's. Simon still has that boyhood reluctance to talk directly, even in therapeutic situation, about his father's sexuality. I think you might know something about this from Sorrento, from that time at the beach house. Do you? It was towards the end, early one evening. Simon had taken the car to buy a few things before the shops closed. May was in the kitchen. You had just taken a shower. It was almost sunset. Do you remember? You were in the midst of putting on a change of clothes for the evening, and you looked out the window to watch the sunset. You were playing with the bracelet Simon had given you. There were problems with the clasp. Were you already planning to leave? Maybe that was what William was wondering as he watched you. The door wasn't completely closed. We know you did not know this. Obviously it was an accident, not an invitation, but it enabled William to watch you there. And through the accident of the open door and the disposition of the light, the silhouettes of both of you were visible to Simon when his car pulled up. He saw you looking out of the window, and he saw William watching you. Everything was still, and no one hurried to see less. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. In the time I speak of as the time of Simon's decline, there was a change of government. The new government decided to stimulate the economy by terminating the employment of thousands and thousands of teachers. You may remember this. Your husband and William voted for them. Perhaps you did too. Simon was stimulated out of his school. Given the size of the cuts, he would have stood a fair chance of losing his job, even had he not stood out within his school. As it was, after Carlo's disappearance, it was a certainty. His unemployment accelerated the decline. There were the bouts of drawn curtain days in bed. He slept and listened to the street sounds. His friends who had kept their jobs and were trying to keep their marriages had nothing in common with Simon anymore. He didn't have the resources to maintain these friendships. They stopped calling. May would call him occasionally, but William could no longer bring himself to talk to Simon on a regular basis. Which tells me the father thought that his son was guilty of having something to do with that child's disappearance. Because why would he stop talking to him? My neighbours, the ugly painted grey house, have had workmen there since early this morning. Actually woke me up. They're constantly having their solar panels repaired or things done to it. It's odd. How often should you need to replace your solar panels? It feels like it was only about a year ago that they had it done, and they're at it again all day. It's unbelievable. Anyway, it's not my business, or not my monkey, not my circus, therefore not really my problem, but it's just a bit odd. Anyway, and I don't really speak to them, but I could inquire about it. What's the deal? Just curious, because I've always wanted solar paneling, but I didn't realise they need fully replacing every 12 months or so. That can't be right, can it? They've been faffing about with them all bloody day. I think they've gone now to the workroom, I'm not sure. But anyhow, the sounds of his neighbours talking to each other, getting ready for the day, the sounds of their dinner parties, where the guests arrived with several bottles and well-rehearsed greetings. These sounds hurt him. How do they know so many people? Can you imagine? There was nowhere Simon had to be at a certain time, every day or any day. There were no certain times except those marked by his neighbours' sounds or by the birds announcing the end of another night he'd been unable to sleep. Things wore out imperceptibly until they broke one by one. The clothes dryer, a heater, the collar of a shirt, and the neighbours would not shut up. He heard them always laughing as his bills came in, reformatted with their new corporate logos, the crowning achievement of microeconomic reform, and looking like invitations to a child's birthday party, when they were really the Philistine calling cards of the new society. I remember when that happened, actually. I found that eerie and chilling too. The standard form ones, and then later the threatening ones, threatening to withhold some or other service or else to commence legal proceedings. It really is vile, really vile. You wouldn't have wanted to see him this way. You don't know anyone like this. Your husband has seen to it. Look at that little red car again. And she's got a learner's thing in the back window. Oh well, we all had to start somewhere. I got my licence when I was 16 years old. In New Zealand you could get it when you were 15 in my generation, but I couldn't afford the lessons till the following year. And Wellington Girls College, which was the high school I went to, heavily subsidised the lessons. I think they paid half, and that's how I was able to afford to get my driver's licence. So that was quite wonderful. Probably the only thing the school ever did for me, apart from keep me a prisoner for 4 years and call it an education. But anyway, it is what it is, people. In the morning, Simon would add a little milk to the scotch, and at first it all seemed ridiculous, staying in bed till any time, watching TV on the couch, but there was no contrast, no friction, nothing to call for any resistance. 2 bowls of cereal and scotch and ice per day can become 1 bowl easily, and then just milk, scotch and sliver of ice before lunch. No one said a thing, and it wasn't ridiculous anymore. It became unremarkable, and surely that was false laughter, forced, semi-hysterical laughter coming from next door. He thought about you. He thought of killing the people next door. He wondered whether you would hear that he was out of work. Would you ever be out of work? He decided that no matter how bad the economy became, you would never be out of work. When every last management consultant was trying to get work waiting on tables or mopping floors, you would still be many floors up in the city, surrounded by glass, perfectly pleated, going to meetings and making unfounded recommendations. Was he jealous? Certainly he was jealous, but more than that, much more than that, he was lonely. He was one of the loneliest people you don't see anymore. Again, it did not take long for him to blame himself. We spend our time watching things like this happen in other people's lives and attempting to divine what it is they have done to bring it on themselves, what it is that we would never do. So when it happened in his life, Simon was ready to accept that he had brought it on himself, but he didn't know how he had done it. Oh, you're out of your cage, little candy boy. I had a feeling by the sudden silence behind me that he was having a little exploration. What do you think of my living room, Candy? Do you approve? Is it very nice? Is it convivial? Is it congenial? Is it a bit vivacious? It's a bit artistic, isn't it? I like my little house, my little housing commission house. I've made the best of a bad situation. I've enjoyed living here for 22 and a half years. So there is that. I saw today through Instagram, 3 homeless people died just outside the shelter today, found dead. Lord Mayor Schrinner has blood on his hands again after driving them out of refuges and closing down refuges and other evil malfeasances. It's all part of the evil genocidal Agenda 30 plan, isn't it? Every time I say this, they gun for me, and I don't care because it's the truth, people of Earth. It's an outrage to not provide housing for every person living in the city. If they can put money into the Olympic Stadium, it's rude. Rude is putting it delicately. It's far worse than that, but anyway, it is what it is, people. Again, it did not take long for him to blame himself. Oh, I read that. Right, moving on, people of Earth. It may be said that, in some sense, we create our own reality through the way we choose to perceive the external world, and like anything that is created or constructed, it can collapse. Does this mean anything to you? You think you are happily married, and then you discover that you aren't. Your whole perception of the outside world as it pertains to you just suddenly collapses. This is terrifying because our perception of ourselves and the outside world and our sense of self are the same thing. What was Simon in the world but a young man getting older on a couch without a job, running out of time, running out of scotch, with all the cruelty of realised potential and the bitter aftertaste of misplaced hope. Tell the 3 homeless people that died today of that. Thus does he walk into furniture at 2 o'clock in the morning, while outside the place next door there is a slamming of car doors and more wild laughter. Will they ever shut up? After a while you don't mess around, no ice, and surely it didn't have to be like this. I should say that, at least in the early days of my association with Simon, it was really Angelique who kept him from taking his life. She got involved. She breached the terms of their agreement, and he was in no position to enforce it. Angelique would visit him without an appointment, without an invitation. At first he would try to send her away, explaining that she should not take it personally, but he could no longer afford to see her. What's all the scuffling, boys? You're very busy boys. Enjoying the cooler room? It's lovely, isn't it? Yes. When it gets too much, Mummy will have to sleep in here with you boys in here too. We'll be sleeping in the same room, won't that be a treat? They'll bloody wake me up at dawn, the little bastards. Oh well, we'll adapt, we'll work around it. At first he would try to send her away, explaining that she should not take it personally, that he could no longer afford to see her. How can anybody not take something personally? As soon as you take it, it's personal. She didn't listen to him. She brought him food and cooked for him. She would ask him to read to her, insisting it was a new deal. He had to read to her in return for her company. No credit. Just think about that, people there. I read to you all for free. Hours and hours of my time goes by. I could have been a millionaire by now. I don't care. She asked him questions about whatever he was reading to her. And in doing this, she made him, in a small way, touch his former self. She held him when no one else was even calling. What on earth is this? Just received a text, just one moment. Gosh, 2 weeks has gone past very quickly. A reminder about my appointment. That means if I have an appointment this week, that means my garden bin's due to go out too. No, it's not. It's next week, the garden bin. Alright. This month is just flying past. Flying, people of Earth. Flying like my little birdies in their coop. What you doing, handsome boys? Sitting like stool pigeons, like bookends either side of the little perch. Looking all cute. Are you happier now? You're getting cold, you're fluffed up. I'll turn it off for a little while if you're cold. Mum gets cold too, so I'll turn it off until it gets hot and then whack it back on again. That's what I end up doing. I had it on 25 degrees, but it's actually cold now. I feel quite cold. Right, here we go. It might be easy for you to dismiss all this between them as simply Simon taking advantage of her, using her. But he had gone out of his way to institute those artificial procedures to stop her from falling in love with him, relenting only at her insistence. And so it would be unfair of you to characterize it like that. Whatever blindness or timely self-deceptions lead you into your husband's arms, you did not find yourself completely without hope of anything in your life ever changing for the better, and still you chose him and allowed yourself to be chosen by him. Freedom in another paradigm indeed. I want me free, but they want to deny me ever having real love. It's a double-edged sword, people of Earth. Vicious is what it is. Vicious. I could cry about it, but it'd be a waste of tears. I've cried oceans over that theme in my lifetime. Nothing will ever get better and nothing has ever changed in 60 years. That's why I'm arcing up now, finally. I'm arcing up about what's been done to me. Anyway, I thought I turned that off, it's still going. Here we go, boys, we'll get hot in a few minutes' time. Everything's wonderful here at Sacred Space. You've got your human mother who looks after you, and you in your dirty num way spark joy and look after me too, so there is that. Symbiosis, people of Earth. Your membership of society was never under any kind of review, and you never opened a newspaper to find the quintessence of your despair seasonally adjusted. What a beautiful way of putting it. I like that. The quintessence of your despair seasonally adjusted. Goodness. Well, Halloween's coming. It's the season of the witch. It's too early to put decorations out yet, but I'm thinking about it. They inflict Christmas on me earlier and earlier each year. I'll inflict Halloween on them. Fuck it. Oh, you gotta laugh. Look at what was denied to him. Love and work. It is asking a lot of a person to maintain a healthy self-esteem in the absence of both of these. And if his self-esteem is gone, how can you expect him to muster any reserves with which to make what are, after all, fairly subtle moral judgments, and then to act on them, harming himself, perhaps fatally, The period in a person's middle years, between say 25 and 45, is usually the period of greatest productivity. It is then one establishes oneself in a vocation, brings up a family, and creates a reputation in the community. Although mine was destroyed by slanderers over and over again, so now there is that, people of that. The ability to work effectively, along with the ability to love, of course, is a sure mark of maturity, but Simon was living part of these prime productive years at a time when society denied him the opportunity to work in his chosen vocation, chosen, it must be said, with the most noble of intentions and in the face of his father's profound derision. So yes, he permitted her to cook for him and to hold him, to take him for walks. He never permitted himself to tell her the lie she wanted to hear more than any poetry or prose. Despite this, she kept him going anyway, single-handedly, at least until I earned his trust. One afternoon, in bed after a walk, she asked him how he could be so sure that he did not love her. Was she brave or stupid, do you think? Can you imagine you asking a question like that? Simon said that he did love her and that she should know it, but that he was not in love with her. You can forgive her under the circumstances for thinking he was off on another semantic frolic of his own. If he hadn't been so forthcoming, she might have taken comfort in the ambiguity. In spite of all that, I unfortunately am now, or more accurately, all that I am not. I am still far too cautious, too careful with you, to be in love with you. That's how I know, I suppose, he told her. You know you're in love with somebody when you wake up next to them, comfortable, despite your breath smelling like week old water at the bottom of a vase, when you are terribly excited to see them, to talk to them again, having missed them after all that sleep. You can fall out of bed into the shower and still comfortable, burp or even fart while trying out various keys in which to sing the theme to a Peter Greenaway movie that you both hated and have never seen. When she asked who Peter Greenaway was, he could only say yes, more or less to the ceiling, and run his fingers through her hair all the way along her face and down until he had to alter his position in the bed. He would probably agree now that she saved his life. She loved him unconditionally, and there was nothing more sustaining than that. But for her, there was nothing more dangerous. She was there for him no matter what he did, and you were never there anymore, no matter what he did. All his warnings and strategies did nothing to protect her from falling in love with what was really just his need. And his diminished responsibility only exacerbated his diminished sensitivity to her feelings. If I have been starving, I am in no fit state to consider the needs of the hand that feeds me unconditionally and forewarned. Maybe Angelique needed to save his life, but she could have done without much of the rest. Simon will admit this. I know her well now too, and we are agreed. With her strength, all her vitality, and that mix of almost naive optimism, in spite of all she has seen and experienced, she is really a very special woman. Your husband would agree. I don't doubt it. He has taken great comfort from her. She actually loves Simon to the point where she can become incredibly frustrated that she lacks the eloquence to express it. She makes a lot of money now working for this upmarket brothel. It's aimed at the corporate sector. Men like your husband unwind in her company and with her assistance. They pay her to dress in a manner that doesn't shame them and to undress in a manner that does. I threw the clicks at the tongue, honey, you understand. She would certainly be earning more money than me now, but that's not terribly hard. Please don't underestimate her. She wants to get out of it too. She wants to be, of all things, an e-commerce entrepreneur when the market picks up, and a mother. She wants to be a mother when the market picks up. She's talked to Simon about having a child with him. Don't laugh. Whatever vestiges of middle-class sensibilities have stayed with Simon, there are many. It is not these that keep him from Angelique. It is you, the myth of you. So please don't laugh at him or at Angelique. You have perhaps become shy around empathy. It makes you uncomfortable now. You can live without it in the elaborately designed artifice that surrounds the swimming pool Simon and I have sat by. You do really live without it. Perhaps people ought to feel with more imagination. Even before I had started getting through to him, Angelique had got him out of bed, out of his room. They went for long walks together, often taking Epsom. They would talk about you. She told him everything that happened to her, everything your husband said. Simon's reactions varied. She could even make him laugh. After a while, he was getting out on his own sometimes. shopping a little for basic food supplies, or just walking around with Empson. Sometimes he would catch a train and stay on it for a couple of hours, reading or looking out of the window. You must understand how positive this was under the circumstances. The orchids, our Sydney rock orchids, are in bloom. Lovely. What you doing, little boy? You're happy boys. Kirby's on the outside of the cage, and you're on the inside of the cage. Anarchy and chaos. You're a good boy, aren't you, Kirby? Yes. Thinking about flying, I can tell. Can you see it? There he is. Next to my star. Alright, having an explore, that's fine. Chapter 9. The circumstances and under them. He was in a shopping centre walking by himself when he saw you and Sam. It was afternoon. He had never seen Sam. You had just picked him up from school and the two of you went into the jeweller's on the corner. It is unlikely things would have turned out the way they have had it not been for his chance sighting of you and Sam that afternoon. Had you seen him, things might have gone differently. But you didn't, and this was no coincidence. He didn't want you to see him. From Sam's school uniform, Simon could work out the school Sam went to, and he figured you must live in the area to be shopping there and sending your son to a local school, which is actually called stalking people of Earth and is a criminal offence. He crossed the street and looked through the window from the side street. You were explaining something to the jeweller. Sam was turning a mobile watch display. It was taller than him. Given that Simon was afraid of you seeing him, he was undoubtedly taking an unnecessary risk in looking through that window. But it was a calculated risk. He was fascinated to see you as an adult woman, a professional woman in a suit, being served by the jeweller while your little boy played with whatever was on hand. For Simon, time had stood still. He had heard that you had a little boy and had wondered what he would be like. What would he look like? His curiosity gave way to a kind of excitement. Does it sound funny, looking through the window from the side street as you handed the jeweller your bracelet for him to examine? Simon watched you looking at your son. He was pleased to see you both together like that. The little boy came to you with something in his hand from the display, a watch. You gently admonished him and told him to put it back, all seemingly without sound in that darkened little corner shop. When Sam had done as you asked, you ran your fingers slowly through his hair, and Simon thought that it must have felt good to Sam to have done the right thing, to have known what to do, and to have been able to do whatever would elicit even the briefest manifestation of your affection for him. The jeweller took his time examining the bracelet under a lamp on the counter. He took what looked to Simon like a tiny screwdriver and began playing with the clasp on the bracelet. Simon's bracelet. The bracelet he had bought for you from this very jeweller years before. You still wear it. You can imagine the effect on him when he realized this. He was desperate enough to take something like this as a kind of omen. Maybe this strikes you as sad. Perhaps it is sad, but before you close your eyes to him, I ask you to remember the last time you took something as an omen or saw something as a metaphor for something else. You can't remember? It was a long time ago. But you are functioning, aren't you? You're never in any danger. He took you, that elegant woman he saw in the jeweller's with her little boy, as hope for him, for everyone. Sam was the future, and here was the future looking to you for warmth and for guidance. If you put the watch back in the display cabinet, there would be no uncertainty about your response. He was loved unconditionally, and at least when you were with him, he knew it. It showed. Simon knew where you had come from, and it filled him with hope that you and your young son could look the way you did now. After all, weren't you born together, you and Simon, back in your early 20s, summoning up all that you could from the first 2 decades or so of games and rehearsals before finally inventing yourselves as adults in each other's image? You left the bracelet with the jeweller along with your name and telephone number. Sam wanted an ice cream. We don't know whether he got it. Simon remained undiscovered, but you were fortuitously rediscovered, halo intact. My beautiful boys, I told you that you would love the way he sees you. Are you going to tell me you don't understand any of this? Angelique said you were cold. Simon wouldn't have it. You wouldn't say that if you'd seen her, he said, pouring them both a drink. You're just going on your husband's need to rationalise his own behaviour. His infidelity needs a perception of coldness in her almost as much as it needs you. And the little boy, you should see the way she is with him and the way he looks at her. Sam, that's his name, she said, unimpressed. Does he talk about the little boy? Not much, she said. You've never said he said anything about him. He hasn't said much about him. Think about the circumstances in which I see him. He's hardly going to bring out snaps of his family. But he has said something about him to you, apart from merely that he has a son and that his name is Sam. You told me. He's 6 and very bright, takes after her. He admits this, she said, matter-of-factly. Well, he certainly looks like his mother. Simon, you saw him for a moment through the window of a darkened shop. You don't know what he looks like. You wouldn't recognise him in a group of kids. He's right though, isn't he? Sam does look like you. We know this now. He's a very calm little boy. Calm, but inquiring. Always investigating. Were you like this as a child? I suspect you were. Somewhere along the way we lose our curiosity until we accept and then expect that we don't know, that we cannot really explain very much at all. Just as he idealised you, Simon idealised your son, and this is where it starts. Well, this is where the recent chronology starts, the one that leads me to you. Simon began walking to your son's school in time for lunch, not always, but often, just to watch him while he played. He didn't do it every day. He wasn't able to. The downward mood swings led him back to his bed. The near euphoria he experienced seeing you by chance in the jeweller's was soon met with waves of an equal and opposite mood. A pedestal always doubles as a measure of sorts. If you invented your adult selves together, that is to say, if you were, in some sense, born at the same time, why was he following you and your son in this pathological way, humiliating himself to himself and potentially to you? What if you did see him one day? How could he explain himself, all that he had become? Would you blame him for it? What would he do if you looked at him with horror in your eyes? What are my anticipated Betty boys doing? Being cute and adorable. Being Tweety birdies. Tweety birdies. Tweety, 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 Tweety bird. I thought I tore a Tweety bird. With fresh out of putty tacks, probably just as well too. For birds, I mean. I miss my cats terribly. They were wonderful soulmates. Right, where were we? What would he do if you looked at him with horror in your eyes. The papers tell it every day. There's no work anywhere, and anyway, teachers are just leeches on the public purse, right? What if you bought this line too? You dress as though you do. Forgive me, I don't mean to be insulting. I simply want you to see yourself as he sees you. If you weren't inspiring him, intriguing him, and getting him up out of bed, you were destroying him, holding up to him the cruelest double-sided mirror imaginable. On one side, there was the Simon, as he was when you knew him, with all his promise. And on the other side, a stagnating man with a sorry taste for late liquid breakfasts. On those days, when one of us got him out, he often went to see Sam. There is a definite calm about Sam. Simon keeps coming back to this. Sam is very comfortable with himself, and this probably enhances his attractiveness to other children. At an age when boys are either trying to outdo each other, trying to be the boss of the game, or else simply content merely to be included, it is extremely rare for the sheer presence of a little boy to have such an effect on the others as to have them nominate him their leader. But this has happened. Simon has seen it. From just outside the school ground, he saw some little boys attempt to arrest the natural chaos that threatened their enjoyment of a football. A boy, taller than the others, talked above the rest. Perhaps he owned the ball. He jumped excitedly as he spoke so that he seemed even taller than he was. He ignited the collective imagination with an idea. It must have seemed inspired. Leave everything up to Sam. Soon most of the other little voices were nominating Sam for captain too. Sam! Sam! The way Simon tells it, they didn't fully understand the concept of a captain in the context of sport, since they chose only one. He was to be the captain of both teams. They were crudely electing someone to organise them, to make the rules governing the use of the ball. They chose Sam as their captain. Why? It wasn't even his ball. He is a handsome and capable little boy, not the fastest, nor the tallest, nor even the smartest, but he is still tall, fast, and smart. But more than this, he is quietly assured and very curious about the world around him. He likes to be able to make sense of things, and usually he can. He is used to experiencing what he expects to experience. He has received more than the usual positive reinforcement from his teacher and from you and your husband, albeit all of you variously motivated. Simon attributes Sam's balance and calm to you. He said that the combination in Sam of an absence of both fear and arrogance is what marks him clearly as your son. You see how he remembers you? I told you. There is so much to be learnt about someone from the little they remember and label the past. You have heard Sam read. You must have. Does anything strike you? Not about his reading. He reads well. Does anything strike you about what he is reading? About its content? If you pick up, I saw someone walking at the corner of my eye. No. Oh, there you go. Oh, well, Mum is like that. If you pick up the thin volumes from which children are taught to read, you will see short, simple sentences such as, Tom can run, Tom can jump, run, Tom, run, 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 Tom, run. No, run, Tom, run. Jump, Tom, jump. Think about this. The act of learning to read. A child is being made, almost certainly to some extent against his or her will, to sit still, pay attention, and to concentrate on the symbols, the letters. The teacher, if at all successful, will have stimulated a certain curiosity in the child, the satisfaction of which both requires and is the reward for his unnatural stillness. What does the child feel if he or she is obedient? What does he or she learn from the discomfort of the stillness and the concentration? Tom can run, but he can't. Run, Tom, run. He has to feel discomfort in order to hear of someone else's good fortune. The words describe Tom being told to do something pleasurable, which the young reader is being denied permission to do by the teacher. Simon describes this as the first dichotomy in a child's education, the dichotomy between that which is taught as good or right and that which the child actually knows to be true in his or her experience. Of course, for a highly motivated child like Sam, this is hardly a problem. The praise he receives merely for the mechanical act of deciphering the symbols makes the effort worthwhile. But surely after a while he will have to become self-motivated. One hopes his curiosity will be enough to keep him going. One day the praise won't be there. Simon identifies another problem with these readers or primers, as they used to be called. In the socialization of a child, the first people with whom he or she must learn to interact are the mother and father. Shouldn't it be the case then that these texts present realistic scenarios encouraging legitimate expectations of parents and the child? What does the young reader get? There are never even the slightest differences between the parents. They never disagree. A child will know soon enough that something is wrong somewhere. There are two logically attractive alternatives. Either the stories are not true to life, or else there is something wrong with the child's parents. In either case, the difficult act of reading has let the child down. It was not worth it. The child was conned. It is also one of the earliest sources of myth, the myth of eternal parental availability. Mother is always there. She is never preoccupied. She has no job and no desire for one. Her role is a cross between that of a god and a slave. She is never tired, never suspects her husband, and never thinks that another man might just bring the zest she knew briefly a little boy's lifetime ago, before Tom could run. She sees Tom run, but he sees nothing, and you see there's another lie. Of course, nobody can always be there for a child. We have to leave them just to provide for them, and maybe even to sneak in some sort of a life for ourselves. Please believe me, I am not being critical. If you can afford it, and your housekeeper is good with children, or not bad with them, even Simon wouldn't criticize you for taking some time for yourself. But of course, it wasn't Simon or me that you were worried about. I'll just see how many chapters are left. Right, we'll stop there. We're up to chapter 10. We're up to chapter 10, but there's quite a lot left, and we've already read for 2 hours and 2 minutes, 3 minutes now, and to pace myself, people, pace myself because too much exhaustion or overachieving at 4:44 p.m. Monday afternoon, 13th of October, can precipitate breakdowns, either physical or emotional, so I have to carefully pass out how much effort I put into things, look after my own mental health and pace myself, people. So yes, 4:44 p.m. Make a wish, people of Earth. Have a beautiful afternoon, wherever you are in the space-time continuum and this spiralling blue marble, and take good care, be of good cheer, and remember, as always, my infamous motto gifted me by 2 Jewish friends from my former Jewish congregation, Jewish community, to never ever let the bastards grind you down. They were both doctors. One was a professor, used to teach at the university. He was a blood pathologist, kind of a, what's the word for it? He wasn't a phlebotomist or maybe he was a phlebotomist. Anyway, his specialty was in blood. And Dr. Harry Smith, of blessed memory. And the other one, they used to stand together looking at me like two proud fathers. It was actually quite wonderful. I think they'd realised by that time that I hadn't had very good role modelling or fathering or any sort of patriarchal protection or kindnesses at all. So they kind of used to take on, in a minor way, that role. The other one was Professor Gordon Senator, who I don't even know if he's still living. I hope he is. He's quite elderly now. Anyway, he lives somewhere in the Gold Coast. I won't say exactly where because confidentiality and privacy. But anyway, both those men, the one who's passed and the one still living, were very kind and nurturing to me. I'd be so ill back in the day, and then I was still a reasonably young woman in my mid-30s, that I would, you have to get up off the pews and stand up and sit down, stand up, sit down for certain prayers. And most of those people in that congregation were a lot older than me, 20, even 30 years older than me. And I would fucking struggle to get up off that pew and stand up for the Amida prayer, for example. And I struggled, so fatigued and so ill and so depressed. I think those two men, being professionals, Dr. Senator or Professor Senator was he was an endocrinologist actually, that was his field. Anyway, I think they could see that I was not faking it till I was making it, but genuinely chronically ill, struggling. So they kind of tucked me under their wing a little bit and made a point of being extra kind. Gordon used to pick me up sometimes when I was having car troubles and with his partner, and would drive me to temple and bring me there, to deliver me there. He drove a Lexus, and it was quite luxurious to be sitting in the back of a Lexus with leather-covered seats, and me winding both him and his partner up as I do, because I'm a bit cheeky. I've got a cheeky sense of humour. But he was very kind to me. His partner was kind to me. She tolerated me slightly. And that's all I have to say about that. Anyway, it was all very sweet and convivial for a time. Then we formed another congregation together called Kadima with John Bradley and his wife Nona, and Juan Simo and his wife Marina. I had to think for a while. I nearly went to say Maria, and that's not right. Close but no chocolate fish. Marina. And, there was me with my daughters, and there were a few other people. We all cobbled together and made another little congregation. Actually, that was my happiest time. That was the best. We used to have our High Holy Day services. And it was Nona Cameron Bradley's idea. We would rent out for Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah the Society of Friends over at, I think it was Red Hill, and it was such a beautiful space to pray in. It was all surrounded, big windows, surrounded by bushland, and it was beautiful. It was like we were outside, but we were inside. It had that feeling of being immersed in nature and beauty and peace. And as the day, Yom Kippur is a very arduous day of prayer. It's very demanding. As I do, I disassociate quite frequently with my trauma issues. So when I got overwhelmed or tired, I'd be looking out at the trees and the birds and hearing, the intonations of the prayers all around me, but actually also kind of mentally a little bit detached and removed, and someone would kind of bring me back occasionally. But it was a beautiful experience. I really loved that space to pray in. The Quakers is what the Society of Good Friends are. Gosh, they had a beautiful setup there. It was really lovely. And then as, the sun sets and the end of Day Atonement, which is called Yom Kippur, would come to an end with the sunset, because our days begin and end with sunset. So, we'd be watching the sun coming down and the light changing through the trees. And, it was just so beautiful. So thank you, Nona, for suggesting that place for us. To this day, I still have very potent memories of that. Beautiful and powerful and sweet. And yes, the birds would all, come into the trees. Then we'd go and have what we call breakfast, which is after fasting, no food or water for 24 hours. We'd stampede to the tables where we'd all bought something for potluck to share and feast, and it was very, very lovely. So yes, I don't always have horror and ugliness, sad stories as memories of my Jewish community here in Brisbane. There were some lovely times as well. But overall, it just got a bit too much for me to want to participate in it. And I stepped away. It took a long, long time. It took me over 30 years to step away from it. And on some days I think about, maybe I should go and pray again as a Jew and just pick up where I left off. And I might one day, but I don't know. I don't know if I ever will, but some days I think about it. Anyway, on that note, I bid you all goodbye. Take good care, be of good cheer, as I said, the bastards grind you, me, us down.